Hello, how are you guys doing? I am back with another video, and today I will be going over Brahmacharya, an outlook of consciousness. So without further ado, let us begin. The last one among various items of self-restraint constituting the yamas is Brahmacharya, which actually means the conduct of the absolute. So Brahmacharya, in essence, when you break down the terminology, it's how God would act. And I'll explain this further as well. Essentially, the practice of Brahmacharya, the mind, the controlling of the mind, the breath, and the virya, it leads to you following the path of God. It allows you to spread love and life. It allows you to use your sexual energy to many facets of life. It's a great and beautiful way to use this prowess. And it's not to be abused by any means. Brahman is the supreme being. Charya is conduct or behavior. How God behaves. That is called Brahmacharya. Finally, it is a very difficult thing for us to understand because we do not know how God behaves, how the absolute conducts itself. We understand that the absolute, the Kether of Kethers, the time-space above all, it split itself to create humanity, to create duality. It broke itself in half. It made itself like a pea that constantly split itself. Every atom that's within us, every atom that's external of us within this microcosm, is all peas stemming off from the main ultimate, or the main absolute, or what we know as Kether. So when we say how God behaves, it's difficult because we don't understand. We live in a very paradoxical world, a very bipolar world of opposites that are occurring. These opposites are what make harmony. The attitude of the Supreme Being towards the universe and all beings is Brahmacharya. And to the extent that we are able to participate in this attitude, it may be said that we are also following that canon. Our participation in the attitude of the Supreme Being may be infinitesimal, but there should be at least this tendency towards holding the same attitude, the same outlook as that of the Lord. So as we may not know how to do what God does, because we are just man, we are just woman, we are just flesh in the light apparatus, we are just human beings. Fractals of light moving through this cosmos with nothing but a thought in our heads. Everything stemmed off thoughts. We are thoughts that became complex. Everything starts from a thought. So to understand Brahmacharya, we have to understand its tendency and have the same outlook as the Supreme or the Absolute would. So Brahmacharya is an integrated outlook of consciousness, an attitude of the personality, and an interpretation of things. These are the essential basic principles of Brahmacharya, and minus these principles, the term Brahmacharya will yield only a chaotic meaning which will not help us much. So when we break down Brahmacharya, we say that it's how God acts. Essentially, we're not saying that it makes us God, but it essentially states that we are going to be in his image, which we all are. We are all seeds of the same creation of the absolute. Walking in this path of Brahmacharya, whether you're doing semen retention, you're a Brahmachari, you're a yogi, you're a Nagori, whatever it is, we don't care for what anyone chooses to do. We let everyone do what they want, what they desire in this cosmos. But essentially for everyone on this path, all the brahmacharis, the semen retainers, the agoris, the yogis, etc., this path Brahmacharya is a path that allows you to see things in a different light. You see things in a different astral plane. You see things in a much deeper sense. We are all one. What leads us astray is nothing but ignorance. Retaining the seed and having this eternal life force rids you of this unnecessary ignorance. It rids you of Brahma in disguise. Everything around you is Brahma in disguise. It rids this of ignorance. It's a good look on consciousness because it shows much deeper meaning for what life truly is. It wants to stem back to the source. Whether we look at a Kabbalistic tree going from Malkuth all the way to Kether, we're looking to go back to the source. And like we mentioned in our previous videos in Brahmacharya, the senses will go amok. It will go in such a rot. It will be wrought by the externalized senses. The externalized senses, the animalistic mind, overpowers many. And we mentioned in our previous video how nature wants and is the grand illusory to all. For it wants everyone to constantly produce as many people as possible. That's how strong this passion, this video is. But in order to seek an outlook of consciousness, it's essential to go on this path of Brahmacharya and to understand how powerful the Vidya really is. In the Anugita of the Mahabharata, a similar broad and majestic interpretation of Brahmacharya is given as coming out from the mouth of Sri Krishna himself during his instructions to Arjuna. The idea behind this significant term Brahmacharya, translated as the conduct of the Absolute, is that it is a gradual adjustment of the powers of one's personality towards larger and larger dimensions of impersonality, because the Absolute or Brahman is the supreme impersonality, conceivable and existent. So individuals, ego, I, personality, this is the lowest state of the dimensions. God does not hold dimensions of he or she or father or mother, because God is everything. God is the emanation of every source. It's the source of all sources. So it's not going to be male or female, left or right. It is going to be both. It will be the symbol of both. It will be duality destroyed, and it will only be a singularity. So this is why the human being can justify the I, the ego, me as an individual. But the consciousness that goes further and further and further up the dimensions becomes impersonality, becomes nothingness, becomes the impersonality conceivable and existence. This is the absolute Brahman, the supreme eternal impersonality, the supreme absolute Kether, the ineffable light that gives life to everything, that split itself down to allow for this grand cosmos to occur. There is no externality to the Absolute, and therefore it cannot be pulled in any outward direction. It has no conscious relationship with anything, though it is related to everything in the world. So let's think about that, guys. Let's just say that again. The Absolute, therefore, it cannot be pulled in any outward direction. It has no conscious relationship with anything, though it is related to everything in this world. Everything in this world, from the most monstrous, massive mountains to the most minutest pieces of sand. It is all part of the same source that emanated itself. It cannot be said that God is not related to the world. He is related even to the minutest of things, even to a grain of sand. God is related. This goes to say, guys, that the Supreme doesn't necessarily have a direct grab on certain individuals in certain time frames. It's really a letting go process for the eternal absolute. But is it to say that the absolute is still connected to everything, like a heart with heartstrings attached to every part, like the nervous tissues across the heart that is pumping blood to every part of the body? It is like that. God is like that. It's the heart. It's the Tiferet. It's connected to everything, while also not being pulled toward any direction. It stays right at the center. Yet, in a way, he is not related to anything. The idea is that the attitude of the Supreme Spirit is of a generalized or universalized relationship with all things, free from particularized or specialized interpretations or evaluations in regard to anything or any object. So the Supreme is connected to everything in this cosmos, while also being disconnected too, because we are beings of free will. But this free will was also created from the Supreme Spirit, or the absolute Atman of Atmans, from Kether itself, is what we stem from. And as we see here, guys, we have the picture of the Kabbalistic tree with many, many nice symbols. But this bright light at the top, that is Kether, with the two pillars around it, Boaz and Joashin. These two pillars represent duality, from which everything split down to masculine, feminine, left, right, night and day. This is the duality. But as you can tell, the singularity stands alone at the top. It's number one. It's the source of all sources. And then below that, you have the Tiforeth, the heart, the sun. And even below that sphere is Yesod, the moon, the reflection of the three. So guys, this has been another video on Brahmacharya, an outlook of consciousness, trying to see the outworld from the inward, trying to see how we can get back to godhood, away from the animalistic setting that we are accustomed to. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining me today. Make sure to check out these other videos in the Brahmacharya playlist. Thank you guys for all the likes, subscriptions, comments. Thank you guys so much. I'm glad I got to make another video in regards to this topic. I'm very thankful for that. And therefore, guys, thank you, and I'm out.